BootDaddy, BootDaddy, boots, scooting, two-stepping, toe-tapping, heel-stopping like he's on air. Tight blue jeans and a buckle that blings with his name, BootDaddy. Cowboy boots, slip-sliding, hard-working BootDaddy. Handsome guy, little shy. There's only one BootDaddy. He's a boot scooting, two-stepping, toe-tapping, heel-stopping.
There's only one PFI, home of BootDaddy, and I'm not kidding.
This is Larry Black, and I want to share with you a new batch of storytelling celebrating family, faith, country life, and the American spirit. The show you're about to see is a special program from Larry's friends at PFI Western store, home of BootDaddy. Enjoy the real boot life, and we'll be back in time for dinner next week.
For over 45 years, PFI has been living the boot life. And we know that in every pair of boots, there's a story to tell. So kick back and enjoy the real boot life.
You know, it's not every day you find a state governor working the land for which he serves. But in Missouri, Governor Mike Parson lives the real boot life on his family farm while serving the state as the top elected official.
The first time I ever left Missouri was when I went to the United States Army. And I got sent overseas, 2 tours of duty overseas. And when I come back, when I landed, I said I would never leave this state again. That's how much I love this state, I love the people of this state, and how much I missed home. Well, I'm Mike Parson. I grew up on a little old farm in Hickory County, Missouri. My mom and dad were farmers. I want to say real McCoy farmers when I grew up. There was a little old farm, 112 acres. Me and my 4 brothers lived on that farm, and my folks just worked hard, and I kind of instilled that into me a little bit to continue doing that. And today I get to have my own farm, and very blessed to be able to do what I get to do. And it's kind of what I want to call my real job, although I have another job in Jeff City as governor of the state of Missouri. Being on the farm is just a special place to be and have your own land and things you dream up when you're a kid. To be able to do it and have your own, and I'm just always love being on the farm. Yeah, well, this farm's been a lifelong dream for me and my wife as we've worked through life. We've worked hard all our lives to be able to get to this point, and now we have our own farm. Kind of want to call the last hurrah. So we've set it up for our finishing years, I guess I want to say, but life just can't happen without a good partner in that. And Teresa's been there through thick and thin. Not to say there hadn't been some tough times in there when we were first starting out in business, and stayed with us. Law enforcement itself creates a lot of problems in that arena. Being in the public service light means a lot. Proud of the First Lady. She has did an excellent job representing Missouri. She's a class act. Thank goodness she makes me look better every day hanging around. So it's great to have her on my side. God's not going to make any more land. This is what we got. So when you do have a piece of it, it's important to take care of it and really just enjoy it. Enjoy the fruits of labor. Well, when we're talking about the real boot life, I'm going to go back to my dad when he wore boots, and when I said we didn't have very material things. I remember my dad, how important those shoes were and those boots were to him in his lifetime when you don't have much. I remember the day when he put newspaper in his boots when they were cracking down by the sole to wear them boots, and why a pair of boots to him was important, you know, and how that passed down from generation to generation when you do that. But I can tell you what boots are all about. Boots are about working. And the most important boots you'll ever buy is a pair of work boots. When you work cattle, for example, you're exactly right. You're not going to wear a pair of flip-flops out here working cattle or a pair of sneakers, because them boots are going to get stepped on. Boots are an investment. I mean, you buy good boots. Sometimes somebody will say, oh, them boots are high. But when you really think about it, you want a good set of boots that last you year after year after year. And if you take care of them, they will. All through my life, I did that. In the military, we used to run 3 miles in boots. I don't know why the military would come up with that great idea, but anyhow, full gear, but we were running in jump boots 3 miles, 3 times a week. So anyhow, I don't want to do that anymore. I can tell you that when I wear the boots. But you know, when I got out of there, sheriff's office, same way, wore boots as part of the uniform. And I just have it all my life, and just, to me, I think it says something about who you are, where you came from, and really to keep that alive, to make sure you can pass that down, because people notice that. When you're wearing a good pair of boots, and those work boots, I'm telling you, people notice you're wearing boots, and they're going to ask you a question about those boots more than they're going to ask you a question about yourself sometimes, and then you get to explain why you wear the boots. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I hadn't served my country. That's just how important that was to me, to understand the true values of what the American flag represents. My mom flew a flag when I went in the Army on the farm. The first time I flew it on the porch. I'm sure it was secondhand when she bought it. I come home one time and it was ragged, and I said, "Hey, Mom, you're not supposed to fly that flag like that." But the reality of it is that's all they had, and it's Mom, so I didn't push the issue. But what that flag represents throughout lifetime is that point in my career, serving this country in the military, understanding that people died, preserving that flag and what that flag means, all the way from the beginning to every conflict we've had in our lives, to where it flies today on my farm because my mom flew that flag. I've never, ever not flown a flag on my home place since I come back out of the Army, and I get to fly it over there today at my house. But it's what that represents every day that reminds me. I get to tell my grandkids the story why I fly that flag, because they've all asked that question. And I get to say how important that is and how important it is as a society. If we don't preserve who we are, where we came from, we're going nowhere, because the sacrifices that were made for that United States of America flag is unreal. It's all about hard work. It's about how we grew up and to keep those values going. And I think, again, keeps your marriage going too. Well, we both know that the only way you get things in life is to work hard. Nobody's give us anything. We've never asked for anything. We just work hard every day to enjoy that American dream, and we get to do it. Sometimes you just need to be grateful for all the things you have and quit worrying about all the things you don't have. And I think a society as a whole, we're pretty blessed to live in this state, to have the ability we have in this country as a whole, and we need to appreciate that. And you need to remember that all the sacrifices that people made so we could be here on this farm today, because the only way we got to do that is because what people done before us, whether they served in the military, they sacrificed, whether those law enforcement officers out there protecting us every day, and what our families done for us, what our mom and dads, what our grandparents did to pass down that American dream from generation to generation. That's why being here today on this farm, just living that American dream and make sure we pass it down to the next generations. That's what life's all about.
Keep your boots off. You're watching PFI's The Real Boot Life. We'll be right back.
At PFI, in every pair of boots we sell, there's a story to tell. Our story begins in Springfield, Missouri, with America's greatest Western store and home of BootDaddy. For over 40 years, millions of pairs of boots, tack, clothing, and more. We've been helping folks to the real boot life. Next time you're traveling the heart of this great country, pay us a visit or shop at BootDaddy.com.
There's only one PFI, home of BootDaddy, and I'm not kidding.
Rhonda Vincent went from growing up in a tiny town in northern Missouri, immersed in a family musical heritage, to hitting the road and performing all over the world as the Queen of Bluegrass.
I'm kind of a crusader for bluegrass music, because the image of bluegrass music a lot of times is that it was barefoot, missing teeth. I love that it's your everyday people that love the music. Like, it's the heartbeat of America that is listening to bluegrass music. It's like Sunday go to meeting clothes. We dress up, we have respect for what we do, and I think the people that are there, they're just everyday people, and they love the music. And because of the authenticity, I think that's something that we bring in bluegrass and acoustic music. There's an authenticity that we have, I think, that draws people to that. Well, I'm Rhonda Vincent. I'm a lifelong resident of Missouri, from a very tiny town in northern Missouri. It's called Greentop, Missouri. It's at the very top of Missouri, in the heart of America. And I'm a performer. I grew up in a musical family, traced back 5 generations of the Vincent family, and started singing when I was 3. When I was 5, we had a television show, radio show, made our first recording. So I grew up in a very intense life of music. It was a way of life. My dad picked me up from school each day, and he and Grandpa and I would sing and play until dinner, and after dinner, friends came over and we played till bedtime. So there was a nightly music party, if you will, which was all great because I thought everybody was at their house doing the same thing. And it wasn't until I guess as a teenager, I found out that Barb Wheeler and Tommy Parsons were at the skating rink. And I was stuck home with my family playing music. I am very grateful and very thankful. They prepared me for what I do now. One of my greatest life lessons I learned at Silver Dollar City in Branson, Missouri. We were staff musicians, and we punched the time clock. And we played from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 5 one-hour shows. And on the weekends, Friday night, we would drive to a bluegrass festival and play Saturday, Sunday, drive back Sunday night. So we are at Silver Dollar City performing. It is pouring down rain, pouring. There is no one listening, no one out in front of us that we can see. And my brother and I are like, you know, let's just, the other bands, a lot of them would just sit around and wait till the rain would pass. My dad said, they're paying us to play, and we're gonna play all of our shows. Great training for kids too. So we were playing, performing in the rain to no one. The next week, my dad gets a call from the Grand Ole Opry. Mr. Hal Durham was the general manager, and he said, Mr. Vincent, I'd like to invite you and your family to play on the Grand Ole Opry. He said, last week, when your family was playing in the rain, I was on vacation with my family, and we were around the corner listening. And I learned one of the greatest lessons of my lifetime, that you always do your best, because you don't know who's listening. You know, it could be people that we just met from Iowa or wherever they might be in the country. It might be a farmer, or it could be the general manager of the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, Tennessee. It was such a close-knit, just a wonderful feeling of having the security of family. And, you know, that's a great thing. And my first experience away from my family is in 1985, I did the TV show You Can Be a Star. And Jim Ed Brown from the Grand Ole Opry was the host of that show. And I won my day. I didn't win the week, but I did get a job with Jim Ed Brown from that. And I toured with Jim Ed Brown for 6 months. That became just a new experience. I'm used to being on the road with my mom and dad. It's all for one for all. Whatever you do, you know, you can't get fired, your family. What a great learning experience. The very first night I was with Jim Ed, the first performance was on the Grand Ole Opry. He was the host of that segment, as they are. And as soon as he sang his first song and the other artist came on, he turned to me, he goes, and this is my first night in Nashville, my first night with Jim Ed Brown. And he turns to me and he said, you're gonna do the next song. What are you gonna do? I mean, you know, they say your knees are knocking. It's like, I was just, the anxiety for a second, and it's like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna sing on the Grand Ole Opry. A lifelong dream, and so there I was. That was April of 1985. I'm at a crossroads. I'm out of college now, or so to speak. What am I gonna do with my life? Where am I gonna go? I'm married, we have children, and that's when I put a group of friends together, Alan, Joey, and Earl. We were just like playing around the house, having fun. And we did a few festivals, and all of a sudden, it seemed like I was in the right place at the right time. I had never been happier. And it's like, but it seemed too easy, because this is what I had grown up doing. It's like, should I really be doing this? Because this is just life for me. And from that, I ended up signing with Rounder Records. And people say, how did you get the title, the Queen of Bluegrass? Well, the Wall Street Journal did a review on my first Rounder album. That was January of 2000. Wall Street Journal reviewed this, and it said, Rhonda Vincent, the new Queen of Bluegrass. We love traveling the country and visiting different places. And I think our favorite is actually being outside and playing. And I'll tell people, it's like, I love playing outside, and I love being in a different place every day. You never know what you're gonna discover. I had no idea until we went to Carmel, California, the rocky coastline that we have out there, and the beauty that it is. My driver did not know that you cannot stay overnight in Yellowstone Park. And so we were up in Montana, and he decided to drive in so we could first thing wake up in Yellowstone and see the sights there. He was sitting in his driver's seat when a moose came right up to the window, freaked him out. We went to bed, and all of a sudden the park ranger knocked on the door and said, you cannot stay here. But somehow, our driver's name was Yogi Bear. He allowed us to stay the night. We stayed the night, and it's probably, I could be getting someone in trouble because that was probably a violation, but we stayed all night in Yellowstone Park. But one of the most beautiful places that we've ever visited, you know, in the United States. I love traveling. I sleep the best on the bus as the bus is rolling. Welcome to my home away from home. I spend more time here than probably even at my actual home at the Lake of the Ozarks. I love it here. They call it the Bluegrass Express, or because of the Queen of Bluegrass, some people call it the Queen's Carriage. I love it. I'm most at home, and I sleep the best on the bus. So this is our dining room, our booth, our entertainment area. We watch TV, we have jam sessions, maybe theme nights. They might pick Conway Twitty, you never know. This is where we prepare our food if we're hungry. Everything has a, has a place. Nice little cupboard there. I have this every morning, my favorite. Refrigerator. This is our instrument closet. I won't show you inside, but anyway, it stores the instruments. It's not that exciting. This is where the guys sleep. There are 7 bunks, and I custom designed this because if there was a space, it's like, let's put something in it. So all of the guys have lockers. There's one guy that his bed is made up perfectly every day. Check it out. My kids never kept their room this clean. The rest of them, I can't promise what they're gonna look like. His closet's the same way. He's got a very organized closet. I don't remember which one it is. So some are in disarray, mine included. Bet you didn't expect to find somebody in the shower. Full-size shower. Have you ever shaved your legs going down the road? That's a tough one. This is my area. I do a lot of work here, so I could have had a bed put in, but I wanted to design this so my girls could come sleep with me, and I have a work area here. I have my computer, I can watch TV, a complete stereo system. But I had this designed so I could lay here and sleep, and my girls could lay here. And we could talk and have pajama parties, so when I brought them on the road. So when we're driving down the road, this is my favorite place. The best sleep in the world. We made a stop at Fort Hood in Texas. And now, after we'd performed, I think, 11 days in a row. So my goal, I was gonna lay at the pool all day and soak in the sun, play our show that night. When we arrived early morning, knock on the bus. It's like, hey, we have you scheduled for a visit to the military hospital. They had our schedule for the entire day. And it's like, oh my goodness. Our day started out with a visit to the military hospital. And there was a lady, she had been discharged from the hospital, but she was standing with her bag, waiting, first person that I saw. And I greeted her, and she said, I wanted to thank you for coming to see us. And I was so awestruck by that. It's like, if I've been discharged from the hospital, I'm gonna be out of here. But instead, she had heard I was coming, and she waited for me and just expressed to me how important that was. One soldier, he was badly burned and just out of surgery, and they said, Rhonda Vincent's here, would you like to see her? And he's like, yes. And it's like, I'm out of surgery, I don't want to see anybody normally. But these men and women who are serving our country, they were so appreciative of my visit. I performed that night, and I got back to the hotel. I started to go to sleep, and I sat up, and I grabbed the pen and paper by the bedside, and in just a few minutes, I wrote a song called God Bless the Soldier, and it expresses this life-changing experience for me, knowing and appreciating them and what they give for us.
I met a soldier on the base at Fort Hood. I said, how do you do it? He said, there's bad with the good. And no matter how tough it gets, the soldier stands strong, keeping our family flag and country free, righting the wrong. I met a soldier, she was thanking me. At first it was strange to hear, and then I started to see what it meant to have someone appreciate her sacrifice and everything she gives for us, defending our rights. God bless the soldier as they walk the streets. Let them know how much it means to have them keep our country free. When you meet a soldier, stand and salute. Take a moment to show your love for everything that they do. Don't be afraid, give them your praise, for this is the stranger that is willing to give their life for you. God bless the soldier.
I lived the real boot life. I mean, from growing up in a musical family in northern Missouri and a very modest home that all we knew that we had love of our family, didn't really matter. I didn't know any better that we didn't have a lot because we were loved so very much and we always had food, we always had anything that we needed. We had the necessities. Well, I grew up in church and, my grandmother's reading the Bible, very influenced. We didn't pray publicly. That was more of a private thing. It wasn't really talked about. It wasn't until I traveled with my daughter Sally, and all of a sudden with the band, she would say, you know what, we need to pray before a meal. She taught me so. It's amazing how your children, years later, you don't even expect it, can teach you so very much, about living. And so it became it's a thing now. If we sit down for a meal, we pray for our meal. We pray for everything. In 2017, we were nominated for a Grammy. And my husband saying, you don't pray for, he said, you pray for good health, you pray for people if they're sick, you don't pray for Grammys. So I talked to my preacher and I asked him about it and I said, you know what, Herb says I shouldn't pray for this, but boy, we would sure love to win a Grammy. He goes, you are to pray for everything. So it's like, Lord, please let us win a Grammy. And the next thing we know, guess what? We won the Grammy that year. February 28th of 2020, a lot of people say 2020 is the worst year of their life, it's terrible. Well, for me, it is one of the greatest years of my life, because on February 28th of 2020, I was invited to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry. We stood on the stage, I sang a song that was our latest single called Like I Could, written by my dear Opry friend, Opry sister now, Jeannie Seeley. She walked out on the stage. It was my 215th performance on the Opry. Just so grateful that we got to play the Opry as often as we could. I had kind of, I guess, become at peace. It's like I'm probably never going to be an Opry member, and I'm just thrilled that we have the opportunity to play it as often as we can. And I was floored when Jeannie came out and said, how would you like to be the next member of the Grand Ole Opry? I couldn't believe my ears, and in fact, if you see the footage, I said, are you serious? Because I thought, sometimes you think you hear things because you want to hear them and maybe they aren't true. And so I waited for her to tell me, it's like, yes, would you like to be a member of the Opry? I didn't hear your answer. And it's like, oh, yes, please, 100%. So I am so thrilled to be, the next member of the Grand Ole Opry. I am historically, the longest time from being invited to the time of which I am targeted to be inducted on February 6th of 2021. Maybe we should just have waited till February 28th of 2021. It would have been a full year, but almost a year from the date. Well, my boots and my music have taken me around the world. I discovered on my very first trip out of the United States, the water was the same, the sky was the same, the grass was the same, but it's the people that make the places special. And I am so blessed to get to travel and see this great nation. So very thankful, and traveling with friends, family, and I love life, and I'm so very blessed, and I'm thankful.
Share your story about the real boot life at BootDaddy.com.
At PFI, in every pair of boots we sell, there's a story to tell. Our story begins in Springfield, Missouri, with America's greatest Western store and home of BootDaddy. For over 40 years, millions of pairs of boots, tack, clothing, and more. We've been helping folks to the real boot life. Next time you're traveling the heart of this great country, pay us a visit or shop at BootDaddy.com.
There's only one PFI, home of BootDaddy, and I'm not kidding.
This man has been a top executive at Walmart and now CEO of Outdoor Cap Company. But he'd rather be horsing around on his ranch. Time to meet Jim Hayworth.
Even as a small child, I always loved the Western lifestyle. I wanted to be a cowboy. My grandfather put me in boots and put me in cowboy hats when I was a young child. So this Western lifestyle or ranching has been something that we've been involved in. My dad raised cattle. My grandfather had horses. So for me, this is not just for us to enjoy. My wife and I, Kathy, own the Willow Springs Ranch, and we enjoy having this here, but it's also about the generations that we've got coming. But I've got 7 grandbabies now, and to me, there's nothing that's more fun as to see these young babies come out here and enjoy this beautiful place. I'm Jim Hayworth. We're standing here in the middle of the Willow Springs Ranch. It's a 900-acre ranch that we raise and train cutting horses. Along with that, we also raise cattle. So it's our little piece of paradise right here in the northeast corner of Oklahoma. We run a cow-calf operation here where we raise commercial Angus cattle. Do a lot to really try to help promote the beef industry. Along with that, we raise and train cutting horses. The Willow Springs Ranch has developed quite a breeding line at this point in time, and we want to continue to see that grow. As we look at this sport, the National Cutting Horse Association and cutting horses, it's the second highest paying equine sport in the nation. I love to ride. I love to get a chance to work a horse, but I also love to see these horses develop into these great athletes and watch them get trained at different stages of their career. We've got some great horses. We raised a world champion here named Hashtags that has won right at $500,000 in prize money. It was only a 5-year-old and now retired and going to stud fee and has been booked solid for the last 2 years. So we've got those kind of bloodlines that we're raising here at the ranch. And as we think about mare power, we believe that here at the Willow Springs Ranch. We've got a mare named Dual Raytag. Dual Raytag, in just her first few foals, has produced almost $560,000 in earnings of her foals. So we had a lot of fun showing her in the show pen, but I'm even having more fun watching these babies that we're raising out of her. The real boot life to me means that I'm in a great place that I get to enjoy. When I think about the real boot life, it's ranching. It's about looking at cattle. It's about taking and having fun with great horses. But along with that, it doesn't have to be just necessarily about livestock. It can be about anything that you enjoy in your boots. And so, even as a kid growing up, my grandfather bought me my very first pair of boots, and they'd almost have to spank me to get out of them before I went to bed. I started that way. The real boot life is about having fun in those boots and how much you enjoy it. To me, there's nothing like it. I wouldn't trade it for anything else in the world.
Share your story about the real boot life at BootDaddy.com. Every pair of boots has a story to tell, and we'll be right back.
Author, songwriter, musician, producer, teacher, storyteller, and most of all, father. This very talented man in the hills of Tennessee has a very special story to share. Let's take a listen to Rory Feek.
But I'm reminded that what makes great stories great is conflict and difficulties. And it's not just going to be amazing, happy times where all your dreams come true. There are going to be some very difficult times, and the harder and more difficult they are, the better chance of a great story is. So that's really how I see this. You know, God has given us a tremendous story. He's still giving us a special story. I moved to Nashville in 1995, and I came to be a songwriter. And after about 3 years of being in Nashville, I had my first success, and it was a song I wrote called Someone Used to Know, and Colin Ray recorded it. And it became a big #1 song, and that was a big deal for myself, and I had 2 daughters at the time, because we were barely getting by for years and years, and then all of a sudden we were gonna make some money, and I needed to spend some money on something, and I bought this. The only thing is it didn't look like this at the time. That's 21 years ago, and this farm has transformed in so many ways, much like I have. My name is Rory Feek. I live in Hardison Mill, Tennessee, which is about an hour south of Nashville. We have a farm that's 100 acres. I always say, you know, when I bought this house, it needed a lot of work, and the truth is I needed a lot of work at the same time. And so as I started working on the farmhouse, God started working on me, and I was a single father for a long time during that time, and I always longed to be part of a beautiful love story, but I hadn't really been before. I was actually a long, long way from being part of a good love story, and I just wanted a little bit of something good. And somewhere along the way, I met Joey in 2001, and we got married in June of 2002. And even though I had had the farmhouse, what we didn't really have yet was a home, and Joey is what really turned our house into a home. This old house is a place not just where our story has unfolded, but stories before us have unfolded. And after I'm gone, hopefully there will be some amazing stories continuing to unfold here for my children. About 5 years after Joey and I were married, another thing happened. She was an aspiring country singer, and I was a songwriter. And through a series of events, we got cast on a television show called Can You Duet that was on CMT, and it created a career that neither of us saw coming. So we went from being 2 separate people doing separate things to being a country music duet. And it not only launched our career that took us all around the world, and more than our dreams came true, but it also created a lot of things inside of me that I didn't know. Before that, I was a storyteller who really only told stories through songs. But as the years progressed and my wife and I's career kept growing, there became other opportunities. We got to make music videos, and I got to figure out how to do that. We got to make television shows, and now we've made a documentary, a full-length feature film. And then in time, I've got to write books and tell stories in so many other ways. About 10 years after Joey and I were married, we found out that we were expecting a little one, and my wife was very afraid of having a baby. And yet, for some reason during that time, she really trusted God completely, even with some of her fears that were, like, she was afraid of so many things, and yet she ultimately decided to have a baby with a midwife right here in the farmhouse in the bedroom, and it was incredible. She went from thinking she knew what life was about to truly understanding what life is about, and it changed her in an instant. Our little girl Indiana was born, and she was such a gift to us, but then we found out she's an even extra special gift because she had Down syndrome, and my wife never really even gave it another thought, and neither have I. She's just a little girl, the same as every other little girl. And she's just a joy, and in time, I think that we would understand one of the reasons that God brought her into our life. About 6 weeks after Joey had the baby, just in a routine doctor checkup, they found a spot that they thought was cancer. And she had a surgery, and we thought everything would be better, and about a year later, it came back with a vengeance, a stage 4. And so we spent about another 9 months trying to fight it and hoping that it was going to work out okay. And ultimately it didn't. Joey passed away right after Indiana turned 2, and we had to somehow figure out how to build a life here without her. And I wouldn't say that was very easy to do. It's been 4.5 years. I'm still finding my way. It's a strange thing to have your wife pass away. So many things that you just didn't see coming, and in a lot of ways they're very tragic, and yet still wake up every day pinching yourself because you're so lucky. And I can only attribute that to God, and I've seen Him working. Like I mentioned, all I wanted was a little bit of a good love story, and I tell people quite often, you know, He not only gave me that, my cup runneth over in flood. As I look around here, there are so many things that aren't just parts of the farm, they're part of our lives and our story. When I turned 40, Joey got this windmill for me. She had it shipped in from somewhere in Colorado, like a big erector set, and we had to put it together. Our flag was another gift from Joey. It was a Father's Day present for me. I was in the Marine Corps for 8 years, long before I ever met Joey, and I know firsthand what it's like to serve, and I know how lucky we are to be in America, how lucky I am to be living here and pursuing my dreams. There are a lot of people who don't get that opportunity, and that flag means so much. My wife Joey had plans to homeschool our little girl Indiana, and when that wasn't going to be able to come to be, I had to come up with another plan. And so we built this little one-room schoolhouse a couple of years ago, right as Indiana was becoming close to going to kindergarten. And it's been an incredible thing. We have now 15 children from all around the community. And it's not just a schoolhouse, it's also, they have a greenhouse, they have their own gardens, they have chickens, they have a little hobbit house where it's also a canning cellar for the kids. And it's a place where not only do they get to learn the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic, but they learn about all things rural. So these children get to learn from cowboys and farmers and all kinds of people that'll probably never have a teaching certificate, but they have so much to teach and so much to offer. When I originally bought the farm in 1999, there was an overgrown cemetery in the back field. Calvin and Sarah Hardison, who built our farmhouse, and some of their children are buried there. And for some reason, one of the first things I did was put a fence around it and protect it and lift it up and revere it for some reason. And then when Joey came into our life, we would find ourselves walking out there all the time, just imagining someday we would be buried out there together. Of course, neither of us had any idea that she would be there as soon as she is. But Joey has a wooden cross out there, and my little one and I go out quite often, every few days, and spend some time next to her. On our farm, we have 5 cows, 4 pigs, hundreds of chickens. I think we got 19 turkeys right now. But that's not really what we're growing and raising. I've realized we grow love, we grow life and hope above everything else here. On our very first album in 2008, Joey and I recorded a song called Boots. We always loved the song. I mean, I don't know how many country singers are gonna record a song about a pair of boots, but we did, and we've always loved it. And I've been wanting to figure out how to sing that song on my own, so my buddy Daniel came over and we've worked that song up. Started out just nails and leather, built to last and made for weather. Can't think of nothing better than what I'm wearing on my feet. They make me taller than I really am. Ain't nothing they can't withstand. A symbol of the working man, no cowboys like me. Boots are made for sawdust floors, stirrups on a quarter horse, to pick you up when you've been a fool. Climbing up on bar stools, two-stepping under neon lights, ain't too bad in a barroom fight. Kicking open swinging doors, that's what boots are for. Been resold a dozen times, crushed some cans and soaked some wine. All but that's what makes them shine. They're a part of me. They've seen lovers come and go, till we met the right pair at the rodeo. And oh, that's just the way love goes. Some things are meant to be. Boots are made for sawdust floors, stirrups on a quarter horse, to kick yourself when you've been a fool. Climbing up on bar stools, two-stepping under neon lights, ain't too bad in a barroom fight. Kicking open swinging doors, that's what boots are for. Kicking off when you're tired and sore, that's what boots are for. So now, even though an incredible story has unfolded here, I'm always excited to see what the next chapter is.
Share your story about the real boot life at BootDaddy.com.